Good morning and welcome to Veterans Heartbeat, on the pulse of the veteran, where we discuss issues of health, happiness, opportunity, and well-being of interest to the veteran community, their families, and the community who honors them.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Veterans Heartbeat, brought to you by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. My name is Jason Zencraft. My co-host Ed Lisofsky is here with me, and he is the Executive Director of River. We welcome you to a weekly wide-ranging discussion of issues, events, opportunities, and needs in our veteran community. Morning, Ed. How you doing?
Morning, Jason.
We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Farside Signs. They create amazing-looking vehicle graphics that will drive traffic to your business. They are located at 1526 South Avenue West in Missoula. Follow them on the web, Instagram, and Facebook, or just stop on by.
Well, this morning, Jason and I are going to be talking a little bit about our last week of a whirlwind tour of conferences. We got to go and meet with Dr. Gordon in person. We met with the accreditation officials for the school, and we went to a really interesting conference on suicide. And also in the studio with us this morning, we have Jesse Ramos, who took on the establishment and won a seat for Ward 4, which gives us at least some accountability on the council. So we're excited to hear what he's going to do for the veterans. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning, Ed. Thanks for having me on. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning.
And just wanted to thank River and Veterans Heartbeat for having me on this morning. And as everybody knows, I think there's no secret about it. I'm going to have a bit of an uphill battle on the council, but I think that with the help of the citizens that elected me and all citizens in Missoula, if we can get more engaged and more active, we can make a lot of the changes that we campaigned on and hopefully make all the changes we campaigned on. But I'm a little naive, just getting into politics, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, also in the studio this morning, we have Rena, who has been our steady rock here at the radio station. You want to say good morning to the listeners?
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Ed, Jason. And I'm just so proud of you guys for what you've done with Veterans Heartbeat and what you're doing in the community, just leading the way for services to our veterans. And there's just so many people out there that could really benefit from stopping by River. I hope they do that soon.
Well, thank you, Rena. It really means a lot. You know, when you came to us, we were nothing more than an office under construction, and we've grown quite a bit since then. And when Jesse came to us, we were still not sure we wanted to work with political figures, but we've learned quite a bit since then, and it's kind of a morning of reflection after these conferences we got to go to. You know, we've really had some blessings with Senator Tester and Senator Daines and Congressman Giaforte. So at the local level, that's where we like to work, and that's why we brought Jesse back in the studio this morning. So Jesse, you were the one that discovered the $25 million accounting error.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they deemed it a clerical error. Actually, most of the $25 million apparently was accounted for in the budget, but somehow 12 council people, the mayor, and a whole slew of city staff somehow overlooked it, and they moved on from there. So it was a big accounting error, and as I said, in the financial services world, I won't back down from this. It's an Enron-level clerical error, and I'm not trying to be facetious when I say that. I'm just saying that obviously it was a mistake, but you can't make those kind of mistakes in my line of work.
Well, a lot of people that run for political office run after they win, when we want them to actually do what they said. One of the things that you had campaigned on was a veterans coordinator. Are you going to stand by that?
I definitely will, and I expect you to run me down with that big new red truck you bought if I don't. So I'm going to fight for that, and I think that that's a good bipartisan role that we can fill here in Missoula, because as you shared with me, I actually didn't know this before I got to talk to you and Jason, that Missoula County has the highest veteran suicide rate in the state of Montana, and the state of Montana has the highest veteran suicide rate in the country. So we have all kinds of different coordinators at the city. We have a bicycle coordinator, and I just think that it'd be a great addition to have a veterans coordinator, especially with those statistics where they are. I think that it's not even an option. I think it's a necessity right now, and I think that a lot of folks on the council will agree with me, and I think that even the mayor would get on board with this.
Well, Jason, do you want to explain Dr. Gordon's conference, how important that's going to be?
Yeah, I do want to say thank you, Rena, for everything you've done. Without you, without Nick here in the studio, without Town Square Media, we wouldn't be able to get our message out about what we do, but more importantly, what the veterans are experiencing and what they need. So we appreciate that very much. We also appreciate you, Jesse, for coming on so many times and bearing with our craziness. So yeah, thank you and congratulations. It's great to have you on City Council.
Thank you, Jason.
What Ed was alluding to earlier is we just got back from a week-long trip. We went to Dr. Mark Gordon's conference first in Tucson, Arizona. Then we went to San Antonio for accreditation training for our school. And then finally we went to Vegas for a suicidology conference, which they were all very interesting. Some gave more than others. But Dr. Mark Gordon's hormone replenishment therapy was very interesting. So what he did, he started looking at people with traumatic brain injury, and he started noticing that their hormone levels were extremely deficient in certain hormones. So then he started working with the NFL because traumatic brain injury is so prevalent there. And then he moved on to veterans or active military more specifically. And then he started working with veterans. And what he noticed is all these people, they have traumatic brain injury, their hormone levels are low. Let's just take testosterone, for example. Not all the other hormones that are affected, but just testosterone. What happens to a male who has extremely low testosterone levels? Well, depression, anger, anxiety, all these things increase. What decreases? Self-body image, libido, self-esteem. And then low testosterone, you stop burning fat, you start accumulating fat, you stop building muscle, you start atrophying muscle, so you start gaining weight, your motivation is down, and it throws off all these emotional issues that everyone deals with day to day, and that's just testosterone. Let's look at thyroid stimulating hormone, which deals with metabolism, growth hormone, glutathione, all these different hormones were out of whack. So what he did is he took these individuals and brought their hormone levels up to a quote-unquote normal level of functioning. So, for example, testosterone, the range, I may be mistaken, but let's say it's 300 to 800. Instead of saying, okay, that's a normal range. Well, if a 22-year-old male has a testosterone level of 300, is that normal? No, a 22-year-old male should be closer to 800. So he would bring their hormone levels up to the median, that middle number. And by doing that, all the symptoms disappeared. Veterans more specifically, because that's what we really focus on here at Veterans Heartbeat. These veterans had all these PTSD symptoms. And yeah, they had a TBI, but they weren't really seeking treatment for that. They were getting SSRIs, they were getting opioids, opiates, counseling, all these different things for PTSD. However, when he got his therapy into their treatment protocol, he started bringing their hormone levels up to normal levels, and all their symptoms disappeared. I mean, their anger, depression, anxiety, all improved. They started building muscle, losing fat, motivation, libido improved. All these things turned around, and he just sat back and said, wow, and made the bold statement that he doesn't believe in PTSD. Now, let me clarify. When he says he doesn't believe in PTSD, so he believes PTSD is nightmares, flashbacks, things like that of the actual stressful event. But anger, depression, anxiety, he says, are actually a result of traumatic brain injury in that population. So, very bold statement. I'm not going to say I 100% agree with it. However, it's very compelling when you see the results of the veterans that he's been working with. What did you think of the Dr. Gordon conference, Ed?
Well, not understanding a lot of this. And a lot of veterans don't understand this, but they got to understand this one takeaway that we took away. And that is, if you're having some issues, more times than not, the odds are greater that it's a traumatic brain injury, it's a vestibular problem, it's not mental illness that you're suffering. even though a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and social workers are going to point it towards mental illness, we have found at the Institute that at least 3/4 of the time it's not a mental illness. So you've got to get in and get tested for this stuff. We're very fortunate that Virtual Minds is coming on board with River to bring a lot of the neurodiagnostic testing equipment that they've been working on for years. We're light years in front of the neurological testing that's being done at the VA. Trust me when I say this, guys, you don't have to suffer. There is ways out of the terror called traumatic brain injury or vestibular or PTSD. Just because somebody says something, right now it's subjective. There is no definitive diagnostic test that will tell you if it's a vestibular or TBI test within the VA system. It's only right now at River that we can definitively say, based on blood work, based on the advanced machines that we've been purchasing to help you guys, that it's a TBI or vestibular, or if we rule those out, then potentially you do have a PTSD. But we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is get your butts in there, get tested, and let's figure this out. We don't charge for this. It's not like it's going to hurt you. Blood test, what? Simple, poke with a needle. We can handle that. Vestibular testing, put some goggles on for a half hour. You can handle that. That was my biggest takeaway. We can't allow, just because a group of individuals wants to diagnose everything as post-traumatic stress, because it's so much simpler than getting the advanced technologies to do this, we can't allow them to put a stigma on us. So, Jesse, what's your thought on what we've been talking about?
Well, I just kind of wanted to extend an even bigger thank you to you guys, because before this campaign started, once I got in, I was introduced to you by a mutual friend of ours, and I had no idea, like so many other people like me, that any of this stuff was going on. The vestibular story, I love hearing you guys tell it, because it's amazing, and it makes a lot of sense when you go through the symptoms of a vestibular disorder, and they match up almost identically with the symptoms of PTSD. And I'm just so impressed with the work you guys have been doing. And again, these guys are here to help, and I really encourage everybody. These guys know what they're talking about, and I really encourage you all to pay them a visit. And this is some cutting-edge stuff. I mean, they had the Secretary of the VA on the radio program. I was able to be introduced to him, and he's just so impressed. And you guys have to give these guys a shot, not for them, but for you, because this stuff can really help out. And I'm so impressed with the program that River is running.
Rena, what's your thought process on all of this?
Well, Ed, when we started seeing these young people stand up like oak trees and go volunteer in Iraq, Afghanistan after 9/11, and of course our older vets too, and then when they come back home, they deserve the red carpet, and they haven't gotten that. I feel like in many ways our VA has betrayed them. It's not that the VA was trying to do that, but it's a huge bureaucracy. And that's just not who we are as Americans. It's not how we want our veterans to be treated. So I think we just owe it as a village to come together for these young people. Some of them are close to their 40s now, but we just owe them so much, and I'm just so happy that I've been able to discover your organization that is really just going all out for these veterans, whatever their ages are.
Well, I appreciate that, Rena, but, in these troubled times, we're coming up on the holiday season, which is the hardest for all of the veterans. And we know from statistics that over 50% of all the suicides are going to occur during this holiday season. Reach out. Like you said, it's going to take a village. Even if you can't do any more than reach out. I know that the Vet Center has a policy. They won't call a veteran back because it's against their policy if you call and say this veteran's having trouble. We will at River. We have no problem in doing that. And I want everybody around here to start thinking about that. Jesse, I hope that you can get the police department more involved in helping us. The fire department, volunteers. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, well, I have a call in right now to the Lieutenant Jake Rosling at the police department, and I'm going to be doing bi-monthly ride-alongs with them, and it's definitely something that I'm sure that you or Jason would be welcome to join in on and kind of see what the police officers are up against and offer your guidance because, as you know, there's nothing quite like a veteran in crisis, and some of these guys really want to help. They just don't know what to do.
You know, when you say that they don't know what to do, you're right, because nobody does. The VA doesn't. It isn't the policeman's fault. It isn't the VA's fault. It's, you know, we've got research that's going on currently that River is attuned to because we have an institute that does research. But how do we bring that research in play today, not 20 years from now when it becomes a safety? You know, the police are looking for answers. I know because I deal with them on a constant basis. They're like, you know, hey, I got a suicidal vet, and I've talked to a number of officers across the state. What are we going to do with a suicidal vet? We take him into the emergency room. They throw him over for a 72-hour hold and kick him right back out. And the odds are that within 6 months, they're going to be dead with suicide.
Well, and that kind of ties into the next conference that we went to. You know, there's a lot of lack of knowledge about suicide, you know, what it is, what causes it, you know, how it affects others. And we went to a conference in Vegas about suicide. There was everything from individuals harming themselves, you know, studies on it, to suicide, to the genetics of suicide and things like that. Ed, do you want to give an overview of what your takeaway from that conference was?
My takeaway from that conference is River has been doing a lot of things for the past 5 years that they're finally starting to study. It blows my mind. 53% of the veterans' suicide last year resulted from chronic pain, and that came from the Montana Department of Health. They're finally starting to study how do we address pain and suicide. We've been doing that for the past 5 years in our practice. You know, we've tried marijuana, we've tried acupuncture, we're trying Skinar, we're trying Alpha Stim. You know, we're trying the kitchen sink if it'll work. The problem is the regulatory authorities in this state make it really difficult for physicians and practitioners to go out there and go on a limb. The opiate crisis. I'm sorry, I know that everybody's up in arms over the opiate crisis. I don't think that's the problem. And I don't think the regulatory authority should be in between me and my doctor on what I'm taking and how I should be taking it. I think that I've seen a number of suicides in my practice where these guys get cut off the opiates, just boom, and then what are they left with? They have to go and fix that opiate addiction somehow, so they go to street heroin. The other issue that we have with the suicides is if we have somebody that's attempted, statistically, one of the reasons they will complete within the next 6 months is they're treated like a social pariah because nobody knows how to handle it. Everybody treats them like they're fine china. They're afraid they're going to break if I said the wrong word. And that goes to our next program that we're launching here very soon. I'm very, very proud of the fact that Wells Fargo stood up, recognized this, and gave River a nice grant to start the HEART program. Well, today we got another nice grant from Zootown Thrift Store, and I want to give them a shout out for thanking them. They are helping fund the HEART program, and Jesse has agreed to become the co-chair with Kristen Stratford.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and again, I really want to help as much as I can with this crisis of suicide in the veterans community. So I think that you shared the objective and the mission statement of the HEART program, and I'm really excited to be a part of it, and I can't wait to get going on it.
We built a database that nonprofits out there can register with us. We are about to start training volunteers to work with veterans in a very neutral fashion. They will do a needs assessment. The veteran will complete it. They will submit it to us for the database, stripping out any identifying markers. All nonprofits, and we will take all nonprofits. We are going to become the Switzerland of the veterans world in this fashion. Will have access to see what the needs of the veterans are, and if they can help that veteran, they can submit it back to us, and we will send that information to the HEART volunteer, and the HEART volunteer will sit down with the veteran, and they will discuss and disclose, we have this available for you, and the veteran can pick and choose what they want. That way, it's very neutral. When we have a veteran who needs services, there are over 300 nonprofits in the state of Montana, the VA, and we have other government agencies that are providing services. I'm sorry, but when you're sitting there trying, I've been doing this for 5 years now, I don't even know how to access half these things. We've got to have a neutral, easy access stepping stone, and that's what HEART is. Human-assisted rapid response team.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of what I see the vision of a veterans coordinator being, is being able to reach out and get to know all these nonprofits and government agencies and be there to be guidance for veterans in need. Because, like you said, I mean, I've only been working with you guys for about 6 months. I'm completely overwhelmed by it, and obviously I will be for at least another 5 to 10 years if you don't even have a grasp on it. So if we can get somebody at the city level that can really do this as a full-time job, I think that the assistance he could provide to the veterans community would be invaluable.
I'm not disagreeing, Jesse, but these guys are overwhelmed. And so by having volunteers that go through a day-long program of learning how to do a needs assessment, how to submit it, we're not trying to make them mental health practitioners or physical health doctors or anything else. We tried that with the CVEMT, and the Senate tabled it for study, and the study has not been done. So we've got to take a step back, but we've got to do something. We can get 2,000-3,000 volunteers out there, and we can get this going. We can solve this problem. And like Rena had said, it's going to take a village. For Veterans Day, we do our annual clinic. Last year, we had about 120 veterans. It was insane, thanks to Town Square Media coming out and doing their broadcast. Jason, as the clinical services director for River, what occurred?
Well, thanks, Ed. Yeah, today is obviously Veterans Day, but most people observed Veterans Day yesterday. So what we did is we had a lot of different services available to veterans and their families. We had a MSW, Masters in Social Work, her and Ed were doing counseling to any veteran and their family. We had our massage chair out there. People loved that thing. We also had the Alpha Stim units, which is basically electrotherapy on a very, very minor level, and it helps reset neural inputs from nerves into muscles so that they can calm down and certain injured areas won't be as tight and as injured. And then we also had a couple other services from financial advice. We had free food. Dobie's Teriyaki offered free food to any veteran, and their families or any other civilians did have to pay. But hey, tough. I think these guys and gals earned it. So yeah, it was a great day. You know, a lot of people came out, not as much as last year, but I think the weather had something to do with that. Overall, it was a great day. A lot of fun. Town Square Media was there. Shireen was there. She was broadcasting live with a couple people who were part of River or people taking advantage of our services. And yeah, everybody had a great time. Overall success. And yeah, just happy to be able to give back to the veterans for everything they've done for our country.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Renan. Thank you, Jesse. And Nick, great job on all the editing. We sure need it because we stub our toe in this environment a lot.
So thank you very much for listening to Veterans Heartbeat. We'd not be able to bring it to you without all the support of the listeners. And thank you again to Farside Signs for sponsoring the show. If you do need a unique vehicle design, swing on by and check them out. Also, thank you to our main sponsor, River. River has an array of services such as veterans-focused education, a vestibular disorder clinic, and now non-pharmaceutical treatments for pain, anxiety, and depression. Check them out on Facebook or on the web at riverofchange.org. Lastly, we'd like to show our appreciation to all of our veterans. Thank you for serving our country and keeping it safe.